Hey guys, Chris here, back with another MIXBUS 32C tutorial video. This video is going to be part 1, and I'll be releasing the next 3 parts over the coming weeks. I'll start by pressing Shift-Command-N on my keyboard and opening up Addictive Keys. I really like Addictive Keys because I use a lot of different road sounds in my beats, and you can even audition the different sounds to decide which one would work best for what you're feeling. You can also edit the sounds a lot and change how it was quote-unquote recorded. For this beat, I'll be going with the 7/3 Rhodes, and I'm going to turn off line recording. You can even EQ it in Addictive Keys, but usually I like to use the MIXBUS 32C onboard EQ. So here's me writing the chords, speed it up, but I wanted to go with something a little jazzy, so I have a lot of 7 and 9 chords. You can change the velocity in MIXBUS by pressing E to go into edit mode and using the scroll wheel to scroll either up or down depending on whether you want to increase or decrease the velocity. There were a lot of notes that didn't really work well together when the velocity is high, so I lowered some of them and I think it ended up sounding pretty good. Now I'm going to manually roll them to give it a lot more of a human feel. You can do this by selecting the notes and then dragging them a little bit, and make sure you're not in snap mode, or else it'll snap to the grid. You can then press E to go back into edit mode, drag to select all of them, and then extend them to make sure they stop before the beginning of the next chord. I'll then use the 32C EQ to take out some of the mids and cut some more of the lows. Now, instead of rolling them manually, if you want to save some time, MIXBUS has a plugin called MIDI Strum to roll them automatically. First, I'll make sure that the BPN is the same as the session I'm in, and then you can change whether it rolls down from the lowest note up or from the highest note down. You can also choose to alternate it. Sometimes I like rolling them manually and using MIDI Strum as well to give it a really dramatic rolling feel. Next, I'm going to drag in a hat and start working on my drums. I want a longer loop for my hat, so I duplicate the MIDI region I have selected, and then I press right bracket and press L whenever I want to loop it. For this hat roll, I want it to be pitched down a little bit, so I select it, press Ctrl 8, and then pitch it down 4 semitones. I also wanted to bring in another hat loop that I found on Splice. So this is what I have so far, but you can tell it's not mixed very well and the multiple hats kind of clutch with each other. I'll take out some of the highs from the second hat loop. So because they clash with each other, I want to open up a version of Ace Compressor and sidechain the trap hat, more trap 808 hat, to the other hat loop that's constantly going. So I select the sidechain and I'm going to turn up the ratio here and make it kind of almost completely silent when the hat you hear in the left ear is playing. Notice how you can still hear the noise from the other hat. I like this because it adds more to the lo-fi kind of jazzy vibe going on right now, and also Addictive Keys doesn't have a strong high end. So I like what we got here, so I'm going to move on to the snare. I'm going to open up a new audio track and drag in a snare that I had selected for this beat. I'm going to put it on 3 and duplicate it so it's in every measure along with the hats. You may have noticed that my gain staging for this beat is kind of all over the place right now, but I'll do a tutorial for that at the end of the beat. I don't like to worry about things like gain staging when I'm trying to be creative with the beat and figure out what works, but before the beat is exported, you should definitely fix that. I'm also going to add an open hat to this beat. Since it's only keys now, we can do a lot with the drums and fill up a lot of the space that hasn't been filled yet. I took some high end off the drums to contribute to the lo-fi vibe I'm going for. I duplicated the open hat track and I'm going to pan them right and left. Now initially, if you pan them the same amount, they're going to sound like they're still in the center, but with a little audio trickery, we can make it give the drums a wider stereo image. Drag and select all the open hats in the second open hat track. Make sure you're not in snap mode and drag it a little bit offset. This widens our stereo image and helps our drums become a lot more interesting. So we have pretty nice drums going, it's time to add the kick. By the way, if you ever want to open up the clip library, just press Shift-L. So we can go back in snap mode here and start working on our kick. I like kicks that work with the rhythm of the chords, so I'm going to put a kick on one every other measure and then put a ghost kick right before the second one. So we pretty much have all the drums done and the keys. If you enjoyed this video, join me next week for part 2 where I'll be adding some more melodies and also structuring it a little bit.